So today we're going to talk about one of the most popular lures for fishing in Florida, especially around the spawn, and it's one that you want to try on your body of water as well. If you've never heard of it or never tried it, even if you aren't from Florida, this is going to be a bait that if you're fishing around the spawn, it's going to catch a ton of bass, and that is going to be the devil's horse. If you've never heard of it, it's a pretty crazy looking lure, but it catches a ton of fish, and we're gonna break all of the stuff you need to know in today's video down about how to fish this bait, and we're even gonna fish it on the water and hopefully catch a couple fish on some top water today. So what is a devil's horse? It is the Smithwick devil's horse if you've never heard of it. What it is, it's a wood bait. There's many other options out there as well. It doesn't have to be just this one. I believe I have an X-Wrap prop. That one's an excellent one. I've caught a bunch of fish doing that. And I think there's also the Cotton Cordell Boy Howdy, I think is the other one. That one, I don't know if that's a wood bait, but that one catches fish as well. So those three options work. It's pretty much known as a devil's horse down here in Florida. What this is, like I said, wood torpedo shaped bait. And it has two props on it, one in the front, one in the back. It looks like a spy bait, but this thing floats. So it's gonna float on top of the water and it's gonna do nothing when it sits there. We're gonna talk a little bit about how to fish it, but basically when you pull it, those propellers will spin and it'll create some action and chop on top of the water, and that's what we're looking for. Now, I changed the hooks out on these guys. They don't come with very good hooks, so you are gonna wanna change them out. I also put split rings on here because they don't come with split rings, so when you actually hook a big fish, they can get off a lot easier. So definitely check your baits out. Depends on what you get. The X-Wrap prop, they're ready to fish right out of the box. These ones and the Boy Howdies need a little modification. Now let's talk a little bit about color selection for this bait. There's no size or anything like that. They come in one size, so that's all you need to look for there. And then on your color selection, the fish are only going to see the belly, but ultimately, when it comes down to color selection, for some reason, I like this crazy looking chartreuse one here. I don't even know what this color is called. It just looks like a giant perch. It's got a yellow belly and a black top and a bunch of black lines down the side. That color or the X-Wrap shiner or the X-Wrap prop in the shiner color, those ones are really, really good down here in Florida. I've never really played around with them outside of Florida. And then other than that, they come in your basic shad patterns and chrome. So those are the colors that you're gonna wanna look for. Whites, chrome, shad pattern. They got Tennessee shad, stuff like that. Like I said, they're just gonna be seeing the belly. So maybe try and find one that has like a yellow belly if they have one. But for the most part, just a white belly will work just fine. They're gonna be spawning fish. They're not really gonna care about color too much, and they're gonna be pretty easy to catch, especially on this bait right here. Also, while this bait will work really well for spawning fish, it works excellent for pre-spawn and definitely post-spawn bass. The pre-spawn bass will eat it just because they think it's food. The post-spawn bass, if they're guarding fry or looking to get an easy meal after they just came off bed, this thing kills them. It's probably even better in the post-spawn than it is in the spawn, but we'll talk about all that on how to fish it once we get out here on the water. So what we got here for our setup, I have my jerkbait and topwater rod right here. This is a Kistler. It's a custom one, but it's a light, medium, heavy. Basically what you'd fish a jerkbait on would work just fine. A medium action rod. It's 6'9". I like a short rod that I can make really accurate casts with. That's the biggest key with this bait. The more accurate your cast, the more fish you're gonna catch on this bait. It's not about covering water. You're gonna cover minimal water with this bait actually. But if you know where the fish live and you can make very accurate casts, you will catch a ton of fish on this technique. Now, for the reel, I have a Shimano SLX DC on here, 7:1 gear ratio, so I can pick up that slack quickly and work that bait, and then also reel it back in and make another accurate cast very quickly, since you're not gonna be covering water with this deal. I also put 30-pound braid on here, but this is not gonna be the line that you tie to your bait. I like braid for topwater. It makes it more responsive when I'm twitching it, and it allows me to get better hook sets, and it floats. So all of those benefits scream topwater. So we run braid as our main line, and then what I do, if you can use braid as your main line and tie it to the bait. If you do that, you will have the most frustrating day of fishing you've ever had in your life. Every time you twitch this bait, your braid will be laying on the water, you'll twitch it, it'll go forward, and then the propeller will wrap in the braid, and then you'll have to reel it back in and undo it over and over and over again. So what I learned, if you take the braid, tie an Alberto knot to a piece of monofilament. This is 14-pound test mono, still floats. It's a little bit of a shock leader on the hook set, and also it doesn't kink as much. So it has a much less bendy, I guess, if you want to call it that, texture to it. So when you twitch this bait forward, the monofilament will go forward with the bait and it will not get wrapped up in your props. I literally put a 2-foot section on here, that's it. Just enough so that the props don't wrap in the braid and you can fish the bait all day long worry-free. Other than that, you literally just tie it on with your favorite knot. I have a Palomar knot on here, and you're ready to go fishing. So that's a pretty quick and easy breakdown of the Devil's Horse. There's not a lot to it, but what happens is the magic out on the water. So let's get out there and go fish this thing, and hopefully we'll catch a couple fish along the way. All right, so now that we talked about the Devil's Horse, what it is, how it works, the whole setup, now the fun begins. We get to actually fish this thing and hopefully get some sweet, sweet blow-ups on this guy right here. I did toss it around a little bit last night heading in, and they were chewing it. So we're gonna get back to throwing it and see if we can get some to blow up on it, because this thing is a heck of a lot of fun to fish. So let's twitch this thing around here, see if we can get any. If not, we will head across the lake where we were just catching some fish a little bit ago. Wind's kind of pushing in here, which might make it hard for them to find. The one thing with the Devil's Horse, while it is an awesome bait for fishing around spawning fish and such, they do need to actually be able to find the bait. And we'll talk a little bit about how to fish it and everything here shortly. But with this wind blowing in here could cause an issue because it doesn't make a whole lot of noise. While those props do make some sound and make some commotion, it's not enough to overpower this wind. Like a whopper plopper they'd be able to find in this stuff, maybe like a big spook or something along the lines of that. Those type of baits could work in a little bit of wind, but this Devil's Horse, it's very subtle. It's mostly for the spawning fish and really tricking them into biting, so it's not made to be very loud, but it does work. So let's see what we can do here. Oh, I missed that one too. Got him that time. Oh my gosh, I launched him. Why is he fighting so hard? I don't think it's a bass. It is a bass. All right, so he came back and snipped it a couple times there, and please do not put a hook in my hand right now. Let's see if we can just get you off without getting hooked. The only downfall of this bait is how many hooks it's got. Sometimes it's a wonder how fish can bite a bait with 9 hooks and not get hooked, but as soon as they come up in the boat, you're bound to get hooked by one of them. But we were able to get him off. Nice one on the Devil's Horse there. Little male, but sometimes there's some big females around. We're gonna go ahead and let him go and get back to fishing, hopefully get some more big blow-ups, and talk a little bit about more how this bait works and how you need to be working it to catch more fish. So let's get back to it. So we got our prop bait back in action here, and there's 2 ways that I like to fish this bait. The first thing is, this is not a whopper plopper. You're not gonna reel it back in like this and make a bunch of commotion with the props. That's not the point of the bait. Actually, what you're trying to do, and this is why it works so well for spawning fish, but also for fry garters, is you're trying to sit this over top of their bed. In Florida, the water has a very dark color to it, and you can't see sometimes the beds that are down there. So this is a way to find beds without actually getting on. There's one right there. Wow, he cranked that. He's just a little guy. But that was still awesome, and I love topwater, as do most people, I believe. Probably one of the most exciting ways to fish. Another little guy, we're gonna keep fishing, we'll probably catch more. But as I was saying, is you want it to fish so you can sit it over top of a bed, or if it's a fry guarding fish. those are the two ways that I catch the most amount of fish on a prop bait like this. You will catch pre-spawners, but if they're guarding fry and there's that ball of fry and you twitch it into the ball of fry and let it sit, it will get crushed like 9 times out of 10. And then also if you pop it over top of a bed that you can't see. So there's a patch of Kissimmee grass right there. I'm not saying that fish was on a bed 100%, but who knows what that fish was doing. It could have been guarding fry there. It could have been doing whatever. I pulled it right in front of the point in the Kissimmee grass there, and as soon as it sat there for 1 second, he crushed it. So a lot of times you'll actually see these fish follow it before they even bite it. You'll see the little V-wake coming for your bait, and there is nothing more exciting than knowing that thing's about to get destroyed. I absolutely love that part of this, but all I'm doing, there's 2 ways that I like to fish it. They're pretty similar. One is a double twitch, 2 little twitches and letting it sit, and that'll get a lot of commotion going. So I've been doing that down the bank this way because of the wind. If it's very calm, I like a long pole or like a short little pole. There's a bass up there, I'm catching him next. A short little pole, 1 pole, and just letting it sit there. If you're casting very close to targets and there's not a lot of water to cover, that's when I'm gonna go with that short pole and just leave it sit. If you're covering a bunch of water, I'll do the double twitches and work it a little bit faster. Let's watch if we can catch this bass here. Oh, I got stuck in the grass. It is not a weedless bait, unfortunately, so if you do get stuck in the grass, it will catch it. But that is basically all you're trying to do is pop this thing, get the blades to spin just a little bit, and then let it sit. And the letting it sit is more important than actually working the bait, because when you let it sit, that's when they're gonna destroy this thing. You'll get bit on the paws 9 times out of 10 with this bait. You'll see a fish coming, you'll twitch it, it'll pause, and then as soon as you twitch it again and pause it, it'll just come over and crush it. It's a very exciting way to fish, and we're gonna see if we can catch us a couple more. And then fishing it in areas like these is where it really pays to have that shorter rod. It's a lot of target casting. I'm gonna throw it in an area where I believe there's gonna be a fish or a bed or whatever, and I'm gonna fish it a couple feet, and then I'm bringing that bait out and I'm making another cast. So I like the short rod. It makes a more accurate cast. I can put it right where that fish can be. A lot of times if you don't float it right over their bed, they might not leave the bed to come get it. So I try to get it as close to them as I can to try and catch more fish, and the shorter rod allows me to do that. So we'll keep on fishing. We kind of switch sides to the other side of the lake where it's a little bit calmer, not only to see if they'll bite it better because there's calmer water, but also to see how explosive of a bite we can get when we can actually see what's going on here. Got him. That was sweet. That was sweet. And just because it is not a weedless bait does not mean you cannot target cast behind the weeds. So I threw that right behind that weed edge there where I saw one busting, and he came up and rocked that thing. And we got him out because we got braid. So always run braid with a leader. You get them out much better. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video talking about my favorite lure to throw down here in Florida. That Devil's Horse is amazing. Even if you don't live in Florida, you need to try that lure out around the spawn. It's amazing. We've been catching fish all day on it. Slowest day ever, and in the past half hour we've caught a bunch of fish on that thing. So awesome bait, check it out. If you want to see another video talking about some other Florida bass fishing baits, it will be right here. Hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any more of my fishing videos coming up, and leave a like if you enjoyed today's video. We're gonna let her go, and thanks for watching. See you, buddy.